Hey folks, I just want to show you a few things that I seen on TV today.
Biden's running mate, President-in-waiting Kamala Harris, openly solicited donations for rioters in Minneapolis. Quote, "If you're able to," Harris tweeted in June, "chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota." Amazingly, that tweet is still up. At least 13 members of Joe Biden's staff sent money to the rioters in Minneapolis. So what did the Minnesota Freedom Fund do with the cash they got? Well, they freed a person who was being held for trying to kill the cops, murder them. They also bailed out an accused murderer and a twice convicted rapist, among many others. Kamala Harris has never apologized for doing this. She's never repudiated the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Biden, of course, didn't mention it in his speech today, but why would he mention it? He's not against it. He officially supports the idea behind it.
One other thing I'd like to say about Kamala Harris, and this is pretty much hysterical to me, she doesn't want you to consume much red meat because she doesn't like cows because they fart and they cause either global warming or they affect the oxygen somehow. I'm not really schooled on that, but that's the reason why. So she doesn't want cows farting, which is... that's what I would want if I was running for president, vice president. Okay, this guy right here, and his name is Ted Wheeler, and he is the governor over...
Fear is as anti-democratic as anything you've done to create hate and vitriol.
Seattle, Washington. And he is blaming Trump for everything that's gone on in his town for, I think, 100 days now. And if you want to go back, you can look him up. His name's Ted Wheeler. And it was probably a couple of days ago that he had this. You can YouTube it. It's on YouTube. You can listen to what he has to say. He blames everything on Trump. Well, I want to say this to you, that everything is not Donald Trump's fault. The Democrats seem to want to blame him for everything. So the president offered him the National Guard and he would not take it. He still has not taken it. But now that Don Lemon on CNN called the Democratic Party out saying we're losing in the polls, now Joe Biden's come out of the closet, or whatever you want to call it, the basement. Of course, he could be in the closet. We have no idea. But anyway, he's come out of the basement. He went to Pennsylvania today, and he too was saying everything that's going on in the country is Donald Trump's fault. But what I want you guys to know is that in all these cities across America that have this violent rioting going on with Black Lives Matter and Antifa and just people I don't want to be associated with, they are blaming Trump for all this. But yet and still, they have not done anything to stop it. But now that they're low in the polls, the Democrats, because everybody seemed to like the RNC, then now they want to do something else. That's why they're speaking. But America already knows that Donald Trump is not only our president, he's our friend.
Was in town, Brown declared, quote, "looking for a fight." Another way of saying, this man was expressing his constitutionally protected political views, and that's no longer allowed in Portland. Thanks to people like Kate Brown and Ted Wheeler. You could get murdered for doing it. This man was. Here's video of the killing. Note that someone calls out the victim's location just prior to his execution. In other words, it was a coordinated hit. Watch. "We got another right here," he screams, another Trump supporter. Just in case there was any question about the nature of the execution you just saw, and we're sorry for airing that, but it happened, we felt you should know. But in case there was any question about what it was about, the main suspect in that murder literally has a BLM symbol tattooed on his neck. If you watch the Democratic National Convention, you may be familiar with BLM. BLM is the group Democrats promoted from the stage all week. They're the movement corporate America will fire you for daring to criticize. They're the reason you're not allowed to acknowledge that all lives matter. You get fired for that too. Many have been. This is the actual armed militia of the Democratic Party, and they are held to very different standards from the ones you live under. In fact, the suspect in this murder in Portland has been arrested twice just this summer for unlawfully carrying a loaded gun. He never went to jail. In one case, the one in Portland, the same people who tell you how much they abhor gun violence let this man go. Then he apparently murdered someone. Joe Biden did not mention this today. BLM was happy about the killing. BLM does not believe that all lives matter. They don't say they do, and they don't. They believe people who oppose them should be killed. Again, we're not making this up. Watch them celebrate the man's murder in Portland.
I just got word. The person who died was a Patriot Handbook person. He was a Nazi. Our community held its own and took out the trash.
Our community held its own and took out the trash. These are Biden voters celebrating the murder of a man who they hate because he supports a different political candidate. Again, we're not making it up. You just saw the video. He was a Trump supporter, therefore he deserved to die. Rah, rah. They all cheer. Why didn't Joe Biden mention this in his speech today? Not a word about that killing. Nor did Biden say anything about the elderly Republicans who were attacked outside the White House last week after the RNC. We showed you that tape, too. He didn't mention the Trump supporters who were shot at in South Carolina recently. He didn't mention the shooting in Los Angeles yesterday that targeted Trump voters. He didn't mention the BLM rally from over the weekend in which the speaker makes clear that he considers murdering people the next frontier in civil rights. Here it is.
I'm at the point where I'm going to put these police in the grave. I'm at the point where I want to burn the White House down. I want to take it to the senators. I want to take it to the Congress. I want to take the fight to them. And at the end of the day, if they ain't going to hear us, we burn them the down. The same way I bust police in the head in New York, I bust police in the head in D.C.
This is everywhere. That was just this weekend. It gets no coverage whatsoever. The media pretend it is not happening. But it is happening, and it's lunacy. And there's a massive cost for all of us to allowing it to go unchallenged. It is unchallenged. It's never challenged. BLM can say and do whatever it wants. Democrats will never criticize BLM because Democrats never criticize their own voters, period. That's their one hard and fast rule. One way they're very different from the Republican Party. No matter how dangerous the words or the behavior become, Democrats won't say anything if it's coming from someone who might vote for them.
The reason that he's saying that is because this is all Democrat cities that that Biden and Kamala support. So I just want you to know that this is what the America would look like if they are elected. So really educate yourself. This does not look good here. And later on, I'm going to show you something that Kamala, I don't know how to pronounce her name, nor do I care. I don't have any respect for her. She said that this isn't going away. This will continue after the election. She didn't say who would be elected. Her and Biden or Trump. I don't believe. I believe this is Nancy Pelosi's sidekick. Imagine looking at that all day. I think that's Chuck Schumer. Actually, this is Adam Schiff.
Desperate need of inpatient care, that man is hurting. But he's one man in a big party. What about everyone else running the Democratic Party? They're not insane. They're not crazy in the slightest. They're just liars. And they're more ruthless than you can even understand. They will burn down your cities and tell you that you did it. And if you don't accept that judgment, maybe they'll send BLM to your house.
Statements are absurd. They're not true. I think most reasonable Americans understand what's going on out there. And really the cause of all of this is local officials, state officials not taking this seriously enough from day one. When there's violence in your community, you need to restore law and order right away. We've seen that. It will work. We've seen it in Kenosha after several days. It's working. Places like Portland and other places need to take that same advice. They need to bring that law and order back to their streets so that the residents of those cities can feel safe as they go about their business every day.
Yeah. I think, do you think the Department of Homeland Security is getting the help it needs from the Justice Department? Why haven't we seen the leaders of Antifa and BLM arrested and charged for conspiracy under, say, RICO, like the heads of the mafia families were?
Well, this is something I've talked to the AG personally about, and I know that they are working on it. Look, we've seen about 300 arrests across this country regarding civil unrest and protesting, violent protesting, I would say, criminal protesting, criminal rioting occur. About 300 arrests. About a third of those or 100 of those arrests have been in Portland specifically, and I know the Department of Justice has charged about 74 or 75 individuals there in Portland with different federal crimes, and we'll continue to see how those investigations are going. Department of Justice is also targeting and investigating the head of these organizations, the individuals that are paying for these individuals to move across the country. What we know, Tucker, is that we have seen groups and individuals move from Portland to other parts of the country.
Right.
We had about 175 arrests in Kenosha. Almost 100 of them were from out of state. So we know they're moving around. We've seen them in D.C., in Sacramento, and elsewhere. They're organized. We've seen similar tactics being used from Portland and other cities across the country as well. So we know that there's organization. I know the Department of Justice is also looking at that as well.
This young man here, his name's Kyle. He was in, he lives in Wisconsin, and here's the story.
Confusion about what exactly happened. But in at least two of the shootings, video shows Rittenhouse running away, being attacked, and then firing. What does this add up to? Well, some of the left don't want to know. Antifa, according to accounts online, is trying to figure out what cell Rittenhouse is being held in, presumably so they can kill him. So what's the state of the case? What will Rittenhouse's lawyers argue when it does go to court? To find out, we're speaking tonight to John Pierce. He's representing Kyle Rittenhouse. He's from the firm Pierce Bainbridge, and we're happy to have him on tonight. Mr. Pierce, thanks so much for coming on. So,
Hi, Tucker. Thank you so much for having us to get the true story out of what happened in Kenosha that night.
well, I'm eager to know, because this is one of those stories that obviously has intense partisan interest, and there's a lot of confusing video. But what is, broadly speaking, the defense that you will mount on behalf of Kyle Rittenhouse?
This is 100% self-defense, Tucker. Kyle, he's a good kid. He's a lifeguard. Kenosha was burning down. Actually, when he got done with work that day, he went to the high school with some friends to try to remove some graffiti. After that, they got a call from a local business person who owns 3 businesses in downtown Kenosha. 2 of those 3 businesses had been burnt to the ground, and this business owner simply wanted to desperately protect what was left of his life's work, so he asked for help. Kyle and his friends decided that nobody was doing anything to protect that community, and they decided that they would answer that call and help to protect that business. Kyle actually took a first aid kit downtown because he was concerned that there would be wounded protesters downtown. And in fact, he took a firearm because Kenosha had become a war zone. And any sensible person would take that. And him and his friends stayed on the premises and protected that property. And then some events started to unfold whereby he was trying to treat medically wounded protesters, and ultimately he got trapped out on the street out in the open because the riot police had moved the line far enough down that they were between himself and that premises.
So, I have read that he brought a firearm as a juvenile, 17, across state lines. A lot of people...
That is incorrect.
That's incorrect. Tell us where the gun came from.
That is incorrect. That is incorrect. That firearm never crossed state lines. That is a legal firearm in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is an open carry state. That charge is incorrect as a matter of state law. As a 17-year-old, he was legally entitled to have that firearm in his possession. Moreover, we are going to be arguing that the Second Amendment and Title 10, Section 246 of the United States Code renders that charge and any ordinance that charge would be based on blatantly unconstitutional under these circumstances.
Right. Well, that's really a tertiary charge anyway, because there are other. Let me ask you about the first shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum.
Sure.
The second two, one man was shot in the arm, the other was shot in the midsection and died. Both of them clearly, and it's obvious on video, attacked Rittenhouse. But the first shooting, was Rittenhouse fired upon before he fired? Did he believe he was fired upon? What were the circumstances of that shooting?
Absolutely. There was the New York Times has a report and has analyzed this very closely. There was a shot that was fired as Kyle was retreating, actually, from a mob that had become enraged that he was trying to put out fires that the arsons had set, and because he was trying to protect property. The mob became enraged. They began screaming that Kyle needed to be killed, and they were going to kill him. They started relentlessly hunting him as prey as he ran down the street attempting to retreat. As he ran out of room to retreat, a shot was fired from behind him. The New York Times has clearly shown that. Shortly after that, the individual, Mr. Rosenbaum, who was leading the attack on him, set upon him immediately, began to assault him from behind, attempted to take his weapon, take his firearm, and Kyle, when he turned, he instantaneously had no choice but to defend himself by firing because he was in imminent danger of serious bodily harm or death.
So that was the first shooting. So that happened.
That's right.
Called a friend on the phone, said, I think I've killed someone. And then he begins to run. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, let me clarify. Let me clarify that. So actually, Kyle actually attempted to stop and to check on the individual who had been shot. He did make a call to his friend. He said to his friend that he had shot someone. He immediately had to retreat from that area because the mob that was the rioters that were chasing him, who had witnessed this, immediately called him out for the shooting, which of course wasn't self-defense, but they called him out for the shooting. They began saying that he needs to be craniumed, that he essentially needed to be killed. So he began retreating back down the street. He began running back down the police line to try to get to safety. Again, the mob relentlessly and viciously pursued him, and he was struck as he was running from behind by one of the rioters. He tripped and fell to the ground. And then one of the rioters was right over him with a Glock. The other one was attempting, and both of them were attempting to disarm him, to take his AR-15. He was successful in being able to fight that off, and he had no choice but to then immediately defend himself. He was in fear of serious bodily harm or death. He fired and disarmed the individual who had the Glock by hitting him in the arm. He shot and killed the other person who was attacking him. And I got to tell you, one thing, if you really think about this, Tucker, in this war zone, in this chaos that was occurring in a city in America, in the middle of Wisconsin, Kyle, the only individuals that Kyle shot were the three individuals that were attacking him and putting him at risk of serious bodily harm or death. This is a 17-year-old kid. This is amazing.
So let me ask you this, and I think that's a fair point. He didn't shoot indiscriminately, and I'm taking your word for it in the first one because I haven't seen the video, but in the second two, I have seen the video. One guy attacked him, the other guy was pointing a gun at him. Here's my question. He shot that man in the arm, and the man backed off. That man survived. That man has not been charged. He came at a 17-year-old with a gun. Why has he not been charged?
So here's a question that I have, Tucker. Where are the charges for aggravated assault against Kyle Rittenhouse? Where are the charges for arson in our cities? Where are the charges for rioting? Where are the charges for crossing state lines? And where are the charges against the people who are funding this activity? and who are financing it. And why is Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old lifeguard who was attempting to protect the businesses in his community and attempting to help wounded protesters and was protecting his own life while Kenosha was burning, why is he the one sitting in jail tonight as forces within this country sickeningly attempt to find a way to bring harm to him while he's in detention?
It is sickening.
This is an update on the CDC for the COVID-19.
CDC, of all the Americans who died from the coronavirus, more than 90% of them had comorbidities, serious other illnesses. Now, some of those comorbidities related to the virus, like respiratory failure, but many others were not. Those are the facts. But you're not allowed to air them on social media. Twitter deleted a tweet with the data the president retweeted today. Why would it be forbidden to tweet CDC data? What are they hiding? And why shouldn't we be nervous about that? Mark Siegel is a Fox News medical contributor. He joins us tonight. Doctor, thanks so much for coming up. Why would it be a crime to tweet CDC numbers?
Well, Tucker, it's because of the misinformation campaign, isn't it? Now, I want to give you something about the lessons of history tonight. Let's start in the 1918 Spanish flu, everyone. Back then, over 50 million people died, and over 50% of the deaths were listed as pneumonia. But guess what we found out? It was actually bacterial pneumonia that killed people the vast majority of the time. It wasn't the Spanish flu. Now, flash forward, 2020, COVID-19, over 40% of the deaths. Over 68,000 deaths occurring in nursing homes among our elderly. Obesity causing over 50. If you have obesity, you're 50% more likely to die if you get COVID-19. And as Tucker said, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, all other conditions that are going along with this. The president tweets this. I believe he tweeted this to reassure people that have none of these conditions that might be younger. Tucker, back in 1918, the average age of death was between 20 and 40 years old. Well, that's not true now, isn't it? We're dealing with elderly people, so it's reassuring to know that if you're young and healthy, you might not actually be at great risk. So I have a message tonight for our college students out there. Remember this when you're going to a party. Remember 1918. Remember the ages of around 20 years old. The average age was 28 when people were dying. Right now, college students, the average age of death, 80% of the deaths are occurring for people over the age of 65 years old, and they have pre-existing conditions, and you're not in that group. Remember this, college students, there for the grace of God go I.
Radical extreme agenda and platform from any major political party in modern American history, and of course their duplicitous partners, the media mob. We begin tonight with Joe Biden. 2016, when he was slightly less weak and frail, Joe told the crowd of supporters he'd like to take Donald Trump behind the gym and beat him up. Following weeks and months and years, a chorus of Democrats and mob members of media, well, they vilified the president every second, minute, hour of every day. They glorified even violence and harassment against people who support the president. Hillary's terrible running mate, Tim Kaine, calling for his supporters to fight in the streets. Obama's Attorney General Loretta Lynch praising anti-Trump rioters who marched and bled and died. Senator Cory Booker telling activists to get up in the face of their political enemies. So too did Congresswoman Maxine Waters tell them they're not welcome anywhere in this country. Squad member Congresswoman Presley calling for unrest in the streets. Kamala Harris saying riots aren't going to stop and shouldn't stop. And just a few days ago, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, calling Republicans enemy of the state. And the Washington Post resident fraud, Jennifer Rubin, telling conspiracy TV MSDNC that the Republican Party should be burned to the ground, quote, we should level them. This kind of rhetoric is nothing new. Remember, Obama himself encouraged his supporters to get in the faces of their neighbors, and that he would, by the way, send a guy named Mr. Burgess to tear me up, Sean Hannity. Anyway, sadly, it is just a small part of the never-ending, non-stop psychotic hysteria among Democrats and, of course, their allies in the media mob. Take a look.
You see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
They asked me, would I like to debate this gentleman? I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
They go low, we kick.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels. That this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
They shouldn't let up. Over and over again, the president and his supporters have out of jail. Which, by the way, if he becomes president, there will be no bail, just like they have no bail in New York. In Oregon, far-left Governor Kate Brown banned police from actually using tear gas. Same thing in Seattle. We saw the Seattle mayor make that dumb decision. And Portland's incredibly dumb mayor, Ted Wheeler, prevented police from dispersing rioters and arresting arsonists. Under his watch, a federal courthouse was attacked, lit on fire for weeks on end, until the president was sent people in, troops in, to protect those federal buildings. Over the weekend in Portland, one apparent Trump supporter was shot by a self-proclaimed member of Antifa. That city has experienced nearly 100 straight nights of violent riots. Meanwhile, for weeks in Seattle, a prominent neighborhood was held hostage by a group of far-left rioters. City officials forced the police to totally abandon their local precinct. Their genius mayor, Jenny Durkin, she was telling us it's a summer of love zone. That was until two young African-American teens were murdered in the so-called autonomous Chop and Chaz zone. And of course, the media mob, they tried their best to cover up all of this massive wave of violence. They compared Seattle's Chop Chaz zone to a street festival while they're being corrected on live TV. When Minneapolis was burning, MSDNC said that it was a mostly peaceful protest. And look at your screen. You got to look at this. You can't make this up. Fake news CNN referring to the carnage in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Look at what the bottom third says. Fiery, but mostly peaceful. Take a good look at that picture. Fake news CNN wonders why people chant, CNN sucks. Now, of course, they weren't the only ones running cover for an angry far-left mob. Take a look for yourself.
Respectfully, should that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People do what they do.
Violence across the whole country. You just about all this from Antifa? That's happening in Portland right now?
That's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
About Antifa in Portland?
Yes.
It's a myth. But you see, don't believe what your eyes tell you. Democrats have this nasty habit ignoring violence when it hurts them politically. For example, in Obama's hometown of Chicago, neither Barack or Joe lifted a finger in 8 long years to fix the weekly out-of-control violent crime there. That's Obama's home city. Meanwhile, for years on this program, we tried hard to shine a light on that very serious crisis. We scrolled the names of shooting victims on the screen. We pleaded with both Joe and Barack and their administration to get to work. Let's go take a trip down memory lane, shall we? 3,470, we don't hear a peep out of Obama. He's spoken out in 8 years, 9 times. But if it's a high-profile case, he's front and center. If it advances a narrative, he'll rush to judgment. No facts, no due process, no assumption of innocence. I know I've aged, but the point stays the same. 50 years in the Washington swamp. Ask yourself, what has Joe Biden ever done to improve America's cities? What does he ever do? Why did he fail the people of Chicago, the thousands shot and the thousands dead? Why didn't he fix Baltimore after what happened, the uprising in the Freddie Gray case? What did he do in Ferguson, Missouri after what happened with Michael Brown and Officer Darren Wilson, who, by the way, the DOJ of Obama said was a justified shooting in the end? So what did Joe do to make America a better, a safer place for all Americans and restore law and order? What police reform? What criminal justice reform? That's right, Donald Trump did it.
Okay, what I want to say here is, this is Joe Biden. I'm sure everybody knows that. If you vote for Joe Biden, you heard all of what these what Kamala Harris and the rest of them said and the things that he said with the newspaper. You don't want this guy for president. I mean, in America, we have the freedom of choice. But what I'm asking you is to give Donald Trump a chance or another chance if you didn't vote for him last time. Because I'll tell you what's going on here. The Insurrection Act is something that the president can do, and it's in the Constitution if you want to go look that up. And what it is that when governors and mayors don't take care of their cities that are on fire or there's looting or rioting, and people aren't safe, then what they'll do is the president has the right to do the Insurrection Act. But the Democrats will tell you that he does not, and they'll call him a Nazi, but that's not true. You can look it up. It's in the Constitution. And the reason the president, I believe, hasn't done it yet is because he's trying to get them, which I think maybe he should have done it already, but he hasn't stepped in to do that. But he's allowed to, but he gets a lot of feedback, and I don't know where, who gives Trump all his information and stuff and what they're telling him as well. So, but I do believe the president will do it, and he has done it. He put Wisconsin just the other day had the National Guard come in and settle all that off the street. So Wisconsin is doing okay today. And but what we want to do is we want to pray for that young man Kyle, because like he said, they're trying to find out what jail he's in. Look, he's a young man. He's 17 years old. He had to risk his life. He needs his parents. He's probably very, very scared. So my prayer is that he will be safe and then he will get out maybe tomorrow, because the president's going there, I believe, tomorrow. And maybe they'll get him out of there because he needs his parents to comfort him. And so I wanted to just say that. And then I wanted to also say that, please educate yourself and be your own guide when it comes to voting. Don't listen to the media mob, and look and see what you see on. You can YouTube some of these things, because there's a lot of YouTube. There's something called #WalkAway, which I'm gonna put on this. This time I'm gonna label this. So it's #WalkAway. It's a lot of Democrats that's walked away since they've seen what's going on in the streets. And I'm gonna tell you something. The main thing of a governor, a mayor, and a president of the United States, when they come into office, they all take an oath. And the main thing is that they protect the American people and make sure they're safe. They can walk their dogs at night. They can, go out in the street. They can go eat dinner, walk in their neighborhoods, and feel safe. But none of these cities right now, New York, Seattle, Washington, Oregon, Minneapolis and stuff, some of them people are not feeling safe. And it's the governor and the mayor's responsibility to make sure they're safe. And if they don't want to do that, and it looks like they don't, because the one, like he said, and I know as well, it's been going on 100 days in Seattle, Washington. So this is not about George Floyd. This is not about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is an organization. They wanted to get Trump out of the White House so they can get Biden in, and then they want to control him like a puppet. And Kamala Harris, you do not want her to be vice president, because you can see this guy, I don't know how long he's going to last. I mean, some people say he's got a little bit of dementia. I can't say if he does or not. He appears to have something going on, but I'm not a doctor. So I just want to say, if you're going to vote for him, you're probably going to get Kamala as a president. And then if she don't work out, then you get Nancy Pelosi. And you do not want Nancy Pelosi. She believes in she will not pass a bill for born-alive abortion, because she doesn't want people to vote it out. Because people like the mob and, for some reason, the Democrats say they will do something for everybody. But the reality of it is, you see what's going on in these cities. If they cared about you and me, with the American people and the American people in their communities, they would take care of that. But they're allowing this to go on in their cities, this rioting and this looting and burning up buildings, people's livelihoods. So I just want you to know that. Educate yourself. You have the right to vote for who you want. I'm not pushing anything here, but I want to let you know this is what's going on in America, and you can vote this out, because I do believe if the president doesn't do it soon, he will do it if he's reelected, do the Insurrection Act and clean up every city. But like I was saying about Black Lives Matter, it's an organization. Go on their website and look around and see what they're doing. There's Act Blue if you wanted to donate, which I don't recommend that you do, but you donate, and a majority of that some of that goes to the Democratic Party. So I don't know of all what's going on in here. I'm just an American running around the earth just like you are, but I wanted to inform you and to let you know that this is actually what's going on. You're not going to see this on CNN except for the guy that says this is a calm protest, and you see the burning buildings behind him and the chaos. So don't be fooled. And like I said, educate yourself, and God bless you, and I hope you guys have a great day or evening, and take care. And this year matters who we vote in. And I understand maybe you don't like the president because he says some crazy things sometimes, but you know what? I'd rather him be like that, and he is who he is. He's not a politician, but I'd rather know what he's thinking. If you don't like you, he doesn't like the people that he's talking about. He tells them right there. He doesn't go behind their back and stab them in the back and say, tell secrets like, some people in the United States do that. So Donald Trump is a wonderful man. Look at his family. They're all upstanding citizens. They're kind people. They seem to be kind, nice people. They're, so just remember Donald Trump has Barron, which is, I believe he's 12 or 13. And then also remember Melania. You're not going to see her anywhere and the reason you don't see Melania anywhere is because the media and the Democratic politicians don't like her. But Melania is a highly intelligent, beautiful, elegant woman. But for some reason, she's not. If she was a Democrat, she would be on every magazine in the country. She'd be plastered everywhere. But because of that, they criticize the dress she wears and the shoes. And to me, going around criticizing people like that tells me that's the kind of person I don't want to hang around with, because I don't care what kind of shoes people are wearing, and I don't care what kind of dress they're wearing, or pants. And so we never said anything about Hillary's pantsuits. Of course I never did, because I don't care. But anyway, that's what's going on here. Educate yourself and have a great day, and thank you for your time. And God bless America. And God bless Donald Trump and his family. And God bless us all, because we damn sure need it.